Шановні колеги,
We continue our working day in the UCMC. The topic of the next event, the campaign under the defense of Ukrainian military, which is dedicated to the 14th of October, the Day of Defenders of Ukraine. We have 4 participants. The first one will be Gennady Kurachka.
доброго дня, друзі.
Good afternoon. I have the honor to present together with my colleagues the concept under the protection of Ukrainian military, which is dedicated to our holiday, the 14th of October, the Day of the Defender of Ukraine. I remember a year ago when we, together with the famous photographer Sergei Loiko, made the exhibition Keyboard here in our crisis center. Sergei invited his heroes, keyboards, to this exhibition, those who at that time were either in the army or demobilized. But I remember one quotation of our hero, Sergei, whose nickname was Topaz. He said that when they were at the front line, when they were defending the airport, you know what was happening there. There were no 10 minutes of silence there, even in the daytime, in the morning, at night, the enemies were bombing and shelling. And he said that it was very difficult for me to perceive that we are fighting there, we have these horrors taking place there, and when you come to Kiev or to other city, everyone's smiling, the life is peaceful, everything's working, the clubs are working, people go to cinemas. And then he said he needed some time to understand why they are there. It was like a rebirth. And what he said impressed me, that we are there for all this peaceful life to be what it is. And when he just said that in the airport to his friends, he was surprised how everyone supported him. And this is the topic of our today's press conference, basically. Thanks to the defense of our military at the front line, we are here. I would like to give the floor to one more hero. You know about our extraordinary results of Paralympic national team, the 3rd place. That's unbelievable result that caused a very serious information support in Ukraine. One of our superheroes, the golden medal holder in fencing, Andriy. Andriy is not just the Olympic winner, golden medal winner, he's also teaching at Lviv Polytechnics. Good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure. I'm pleased to be invited to this press conference. Of course, you know, when different questions are asked, or when I give an interview, very often people ask about the words that I said, and that is something which pleases me, because these words were not said just to show off. It was the gratitude. And when sometimes people ask some not convenient questions, because you have just come up of the fencing track, you cannot be ready to the emotions, and then the journalist is asking, who do you dedicate the victory to? And the words which at some moment you can say, these are the words which are which come from your heart and from your soul. But definitely we all are really under the defense of our heroes, of our military, because of one reason. That's our elite, which is now in the east, all along the border with our so-called friends, are defending our territory. Because now, unfortunately, is the time when our brothers and parents have to do it. Unfortunately, leaving what they were doing in everyday life. And when we were in Rio after the Olympic Games, we were talking about how some Olympic champions treat the sportsmen for our countries. But I can tell you that talking to our sportsmen from our national team, that is probably the work of mass media. We all, the Olympic team members, Paralympic team members, we understand what we are, who we are. We understand our responsibility. We are part of those people who now, at that time, are trying to present Ukraine well abroad. When we were in Rio, of course, all have Facebook, all see news, and every day reports of Mr. Lysenko. They do not cause you to smile, but they take you to a sorrowful mood. And the question why Ukraine presented itself so well, we're talking about the systemic work that our Paralympic movement was set up in the post-Soviet period, and that is why the system there is probably better. But the next important reason why, to the question why we presented Ukraine so well, is the situation in Ukraine. Many of us have relatives, brothers, sisters. My friend's sister works as psychologist close to frontline. This situation touched upon every family in our country, and that is the incentive that gave us in Rio. I believe that I can guarantee that 100%. And that is what gave us this additional strength, the strength of your hand. And I can tell you, I wasn't going there as the favorite to Paralympic Games, but the belief of everyone, of my family, my wife, my friends, my colleagues into me, helped me a lot. I love sometimes to have a lot of motivation. The fact that I represent Ukraine, I represent our coat of arms, which is with me all the time. Of course, this cannot be compared to what we were doing, cannot be compared to what our soldiers are doing. But this opportunity to support Ukraine, at least a little bit at the global arena, this is important, and I hope that we managed to somehow well represent Ukraine, and the number of warriors, of servicemen, of volunteers who, after my personal victory and our third place in Paralympics, all those who were writing to us, who were greeting us, congratulating, that caused us cry, and the tears were sincere. This is true, talking not just about myself, but about all the members of the team. Talking to others, and there are people from different cities and villages of Ukraine, from Crimea, from Donbass. All people, all sportsmen, coaches, managers, all Paralympic team. We are probably closer than common people to our servicemen, saying that many of them require physical rehabilitation, psychological rehabilitation, and we are not close to them talking about psychological impact, but talking about realizing ourselves via the sports. So the attempts to find something and to try and live in this life, that is important. We need to help our guys talking about physical rehabilitation and professional, because all of them come back home. They need to feed their families. That's a big problem. They have to earn money. And I believe that this is a very important task, physical rehabilitation via sport. It's easier for us to find common language with them. And on behalf of all Paralympic sportsmen of Ukraine, I would like to thank our servicemen who every day, every night defend us, and we'll be happy when finally our servicemen take us to victory over the enemy. Whether this victory will happen, but I believe that our servicemen will gain it with minimum losses. I believe in Ukraine. We believe that we have a light future, and we pray for every serviceman to come back home. And we pray for that every day. I am grateful to them. These are people for who we have so many hopes. And I am happy that on that day, on the day when the Godmother protects us, we believe in them. Glory to Ukraine.
Thank you, Andrei. I invite Irina Soloshenko. The war entered our lives in different ways. For me, it was via the hospital where I came as a volunteer. Later, I started to go to the ATO, to the contact line, and my first very strong impression, my shock, was when I first met Yaroslav, who lost his leg. For me, it was shock, but he got accustomed to the situation and made decision that he should remain in the army service and make his way there. And this brought me to idea that when people are physically disabled in this or that aspect, it does not mean that they are disabled morally. They are become stronger, vice versa. And actually, the next shock for me was when I met Yaroslav. at the front line, where he had no privileges in physical fitness trainings. And by the way, they are instructors to the newcomers. I had many friends from Maidan. I had many friends at the contact line. Last year, we buried Andrew, who did a lot for all of us. He found himself unable to remain a volunteer, and he became the customs police officer and defended our borders from smugglers. And unfortunately, he was killed. I ask you to remember that each destiny means that this person belongs to the family, and when this person perishes, the family suffers. Once I was in a situation of heavy shelling in Pisky, and we tried to convince children to quit this village and to be evacuated. I remember one girl, 5-year-old girl, and they spent almost, she and her mother spent almost 6 months in a cellar, trying to escape from those shellings, and so we evacuated. Finally, we convinced them to evacuation, and I remember that group of women. This was January, end of January 2015. We were sitting in a cafe in Kramatorsk, and suddenly I heard the noise of coming tanks, and I raised my hand and started to signal to that guys, showing the sign of victory. I wished to show my welcoming to that young guys who were going directly to the front line, directly to the war. And this year, before the parade, I made this post on a Facebook and showed the picture. And one young guy wrote to me a response that I was in that tank column crossing the Kramatorsk street that way, and we were very much surprised to see this welcoming sign, and we very much inspired by this sign, and I told this story to give my message. Please remember those who defend our country there in the East. They are ready to sacrifice their lives every day. They experience shortcomings, shortages. They stay in the deserted situation in the field for many months, and then they arrive to peaceful cities, towns, villages where there is normal life, where people go to cafe, to cinemas, etc. And they need time to get accustomed to this environment. I have a friend, Zhenya. We called him the doctor. He started from Maidan, and then he went to the front line. Then he was demobilized, and he spent only 3 months here. And then he said, I cannot stay. I cannot stay here. I would go there. And once he told me there is only sense for us to remain at the front line when you remain in the rear and you work for the future of our country and you grow up children. Thank you. Dear colleagues, whether you have any questions? Yemets Maria, CMC. Could you please, the action mentions date October 14, when it will be held, exactly what will be time frames, who will be involved, etc. We have just handed 4 promo roles to the TV channels, and also we will make presentations on Facebook, in the internet, and we will involve just ordinary people into our action. Also, we will make some some branded things like the T-shirts with brands, like stickers, etc. On our website, you can see this. Any further questions? If there are no further questions, then thank you very much, and meet next time.